Hi, so today I want to talk about the impossibility of planning for the future because I've been thinking about how people think that they can use something like probability to figure out what to do, right? If there's a weather forecast and they're telling you that it's probably going to rain, there's going to be a shower, then obviously if you don't want to get wet, all you have to do is not go outside, and then that will minimize your the probability of you getting wet. And maybe you can do that, but it becomes very difficult to do that when it comes to life. Like, I was thinking about like parents who put too much pressure on their fucking kids, right? um, like uh, there was this Hungarian chess prodigy who was raised by her father particularly to become a genius, and she did. Actually, she was one of the best chess players of all time, the highest ranked woman of all time. And yet I was just thinking, well, yes, but what if she had crumpled under the pressure, um crumbled under the pressure, and just threw herself off of the balcony instead. So I think um when parents have kids, for example, and they say, oh, I'm gonna do my best, I'm gonna provide everything that needs to be provided, they have too much confidence in themselves because they don't understand that things can always go south and that they can't actually plan for that. So there's people, when people think they can plan for the future, they're being arrogant. And one prime example of that is when parents have kids and they say, well, I got it under control. It's really stupid. And like another tragic point is that you never really know where talent or genius comes out of, right? It's always talent, and genius is always contingent, right? So whatever you want to call it, talent or genius, is always contingent. It always comes out of a circumstance that you can't actually plan for, right? And so one implication for that in terms of civilization is that you can never plan for the proper civilization, because there will always be something that will catch you off guard. And so this lack of planning is a crucial reason, I think, why one might become a skeptic of civilization, or a skeptic of having kids, a skeptic of somebody who thinks they know what to do and how to organize the future, right? It's because you can never really know what will come out of it in the end. It could be something good, but it also could be something bad, right? Like usually good things usually come out of pain and uncertainty. Like you go somewhere and you never really planned for it, but something good happens, right? um, you make a song, you write a poem, but the best ones are always, the best poems, the best songs, the best movies, they're always ones that you don't really plan for. They just sort of come out of your brain when you're not even thinking about it, and you don't even want to do it. But the moment you try to do it, you lose that originality, you lose that freshness, right? And so that's, I think, one tragic reason why you can't be an optimist, that you can't just say, oh, I have it under control, I know what to do, I know what the best result is, because the fact is you don't. And even if you try to plan for a future where everybody has everything they need or whatever, well, you never really thought about it, but that would just actually make them lazy and complacent, which is where we're headed today. I mean, if you look at me, I'm not proud of it, but I'm fat, and this is a result of me being too physically comfortable, in the sense that I don't have to work in the mines for 8 hours a day. And so I became complacent and kind of degenerate in many ways. Even though I have human rights and I have all those things that are supposed to make things go fine, they actually make them go quite badly, right? And so, okay, so can plan for kids, can plan for a good society, and genius comes out of uncertainty. And so there's a kind of arrogance that people have when they think they can. And I think the most extreme example of this is having kids, right? Um, that's why I remain a pessimist and anti-natalist, because when you have kids, you really just think you know what's gonna happen. And the fact is, you don't know what's gonna happen, and it can end quite tragically. And I just think there's a special pleading going on when it comes to having kids, in that nobody says it's okay to as much as tickle somebody, right? You can go up to somebody on the street and just tickle them. That's actually called assault. But when it comes to having kids, you're allowed to impose an entire life of, unconsented to sensations, which go far beyond getting tickled, right? A couple of weeks ago, I came down with a really bad bout of sickness, and it was a nightmare. That when you're in the kind of pain where, you just start like apologizing, like you almost think there's a God who is organizing your punishment. And so even if you're an atheist, you start to kind of, oh, I'm sorry, I'll be good. And you just can't help it because you're in that much pain. And I was nearly out of, it was like scorching hot. I was nearly out of my mind. I was puking my brains out. And so, like, if you impose that kind of pain on purpose on somebody, like if I had some magic wand and I just said, you're about to be really fucking sick, Adabra, um, then I would go to jail for a long time. But if I have a kid, and the kid inevitably becomes sick like that, everybody has terrible bouts of sickness, then it's okay. It's actually encouraged, and so that leads to the point that that we live in this kind of severe delusion where everything that happens is for this thing we call civilization, the state, society, country. Because individually, we would never accept any of these impositions. But the only reason why it's encouraged is because, of course, in order to have a country, you need to have people. So a country will never, and this is why I don't believe that, like an anti-natalist utopia is possible, because countries always have an interest in maintaining themselves. So they will never, deplete their own resources on purpose. They'll never say, all right, we're gonna die, we're just gonna not have kids. That would be insane. The first thing that would come to their mind is, oh, the Russians are doing it. It's a Jewish conspiracy. It's the Chinese who are, like, they would never accept this. There would always be very strong counter pressure to stop, a willful kind of anti-natalist extinction. But that's not really the point I want to make. The point I want to make is that that we live very much alienated from ourselves, because again, none of us are okay with any of this, right? We're not okay with people being homeless. We're not okay with people puking their brains out and being in severe pain. We're not okay with people's, suicides and tragedies. We're not okay with any of these impositions, and yet we do it because, we need to have the civilization to function. So we need to go to work, and we need to have a certain amount of authority. And you know um, like I was just wondering about, if I had kids, I would be really nice to them. You would think I would never yell at them, I would never hit them, I would never do any of that stuff. And yet, when you go to the store and you see a kid, and he's doing something he's not supposed to do, what else are you gonna do than yell at him and say, like, stop? Like, that's just what you're gonna do, right? And it works. But even though you don't want to do it, even though you don't want to cause your kid to be uncomfortable or in fear, you have to do it because you live in a civilization. You have to teach them to be civil. Even though you don't really want to do it, you just want them to do whatever they want and have fun and be happy. But you can't do that. You have to impose pain and uncomfortableness on your kid. And you only do it because you have this idea in your head, reasonably. But you do have this idea in your head that I have to serve civilization, right? And then it also switches around. You use, you know that you need to prepare your kid for the real world, right? The real world. And because of that, you justify making him uncomfortable, making him study when it's too late, and making him take piano lessons or whatever. Piano lessons. Stuff that he doesn't want to do because, well, he needs to function in civilization. So it goes both ways. For one, you don't want to disturb civilization because you've been raised that way, right? And two, you want your kid to succeed in civilization, and so you ignore what the kid really wants to do, what really makes him happy, what really makes him comfortable, and what you want to do, because of the pressure of civilization, because of the pressure to conform, to satisfy the contingency of society, right? And so we always live in this kind of separated reality, this double reality, this double nature, where on the one hand we have our actual lives, and on the other hand we have all this imposed cream on top, and we get subjugated to this cream, and all we think about is this cream. How can I make the cream happy? And so, we constantly live in this delusion. We do nothing for its own sake. We do nothing because we find it pleasurable, fun, exciting, original. It's always about, you have to study for the test, right? Because if you don't study for the test, you're not going to get into a good school. If you're not going to get into a good school, you're not going to get a good job. If you're not going to get a good job, you're not going to make a lot of money. And I find it astonishing that most people understand this. Like, I'm not saying anything new, and yet none of them really rebel against it. So I find it astonishing that even though we know this is how it works, most of us, we have some intuitive understanding that the game is kind of fucked. We still go along with it, and that's where I'm like, I don't get it. I don't get why you people think it's okay to keep playing the nasty game. I don't know what you think you're gonna get out of it in the end. But again, to say this is kind of pointless because nobody cares. Nobody, oh, okay, I get it now. That's not gonna happen. So it's just something that needs to be said, even though nobody's gonna listen, right? And I guess another complaint is that nobody really listens, right? You can talk and you can say things, and people are so distracted and they don't have attention spans that they're not gonna really listen. You can actually tell them something that will blow their minds, and 1 second later or 5 minutes later, they're back to doing exactly the same shit that the person warned against, right? So he says, hey, you're probably addicted to this porn thing, and it's probably would be better for you to just stop, but you say, oh, I get it, and then immediately open up the tab, which, I don't care. I don't blame people for it, but it's like, it's just, you get told, hey, don't don't be on your phone all day. True enough. And then you're on your phone all day, you know. So any any kind of warning that you get, it doesn't really stick. You don't really care about it, right? They tell you the truth in movies. They tell you the truth in comic books, in manga, in anime, in YouTube videos, vloggers and YouTube essays and Wikipedia pages, whatever. You have a lot of information and you can sort of figure it out. I think most of us today know that we're fucked, that the system is rotten and the rich get richer while the poor, are continuously exploited. Even if they live better by some standard, they're still exploited. And it's like, that's not good. That's not fine. It's not okay that all these rich people have all this money while other people starve and are homeless. It's not okay to discriminate against people because they're different from you. And yet you look at somebody who's a little different and you snicker and so you still really do it. Everything they warn against, you still really do it. And you don't really do anything to stop the system, because you're afraid, and you just keep doing it on the excuse that, well, I'm just a person, what am I supposed to do? So you just keep it's like when somebody makes a joke that that you don't want to laugh at because it's like rude. Hey, look at that fatso over there, like look at that fat fuck over there, and you're like but you only laugh because you're uncomfortable. But by yourself you would never want to laugh at that person. Like you know it's wrong. The poor fucker is just addicted to food. And yet all that discretion is taken away when you join the group. And you're just as vicious as anyone. And so there's madness in the groups. And yet you need the groups to survive, because alone is really painful. Like I always thought that alone people are fine, together they're fucked, together they become insane, right? And yet when you're alone you're like, it's not good, I need somebody to listen to me. And then that just creates a whole another bunch of problems. So yeah, the fundamental problem is that everything is contradictory. That you do one thing and like there's a way for life to always punish you, right? If you make a lot of money, then like billionaires are not really excited about money anymore. If you're a multimillionaire and you have a lot of money, you're not really interested in the money anymore, right? It doesn't really get you excited anymore. Whereas if you're poor and you think about, maybe if I make all this money I'm gonna be happy, and you make all this money and suddenly it's what now? Like there's always there's always a back and forth. If you get older, if you gain seniority in a organization, they treat you with more respect, but you're also your body is all broken down, and you never ever gain anything without paying for it. And you just want to ask, like, why is it that way? Like, I was thinking about school, right, as an old guy, and I was like, I look like I could be 40, but I'm 25. But I was thinking about school, and all the kids in the school must be jealous of somebody like me, the guy who walks outside freely, right? When they have school, they can't go outside when they have school, and so they're kind of jealous. So when I grow up, you look at a bunch of candies at the store, and you're like, I can only choose one, because the money I get from my parents is not enough to cover more, or they only let me get one. But then when you grow up, many of you will know this feeling. You go to the chocolate aisle, the candy aisle, and you're like, I don't I don't even I don't even want to, but I still um it's really not that good. I mean, it's kind of boring now. um Sometimes I have struggle choosing something to eat because I'm like, I can just get bored of food. Even though I keep eating food, nobody believes you when you're fat, but it's like, I don't actually like it really very much. Most of the time it's just boring, and but you still eat because it gives you something. It gives you a little hit. It gives you a little something to look forward to, even though you know that it gets kind of dull and boring. Right. So when the kids are thinking about, it would be so nice to be an adult, so nice to just be outside and can just do whatever you want. Like, I can literally just do anything. I can walk around. Nobody tells me where to go or what to do. Guess what? I'm not. It doesn't make me happy. uh, I was a lot happier when I was a slave of society. When I was just a little slave of society, I was okay. I was doing better. And you have this. There's a kind of tragic switch that happens with many of us. Is that when you're young, when I was about like 14, 15, what I was doing is I was counting back the years until I reached like 18, because I knew that when I'm an adult, uh, you know, that when I became an adult, I could do whatever I wanted, and I wouldn't have to go to school anymore. Um, and then something switched when I when I became a little older, and then I just kept thinking about how many years do I have left before I can leave, and you think, oh, it's 50. So it's been 50 for like 10 years now. I always think I'm gonna die at 70. Um, so it's about 50 years. um, and it's still about 50 years. Of course, you don't really know, but there's this tragic switch where you go from I can't wait until I'm old, until I'm big, until I'm an adult. You go from that to I can't wait until I'm dead. And yeah, that's just a tragic thing. Tragic, 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 tragic. And yeah, I guess maybe it's time to get a little bit more darker, because yeah, I don't want to make. I never want to make a video where it sounds like I'm too normie, because I have darker visions than most people. Um, but sometimes like I just want to talk in a way that's accessible to people so that they can understand it. But really, you know, my real vision is a lot darker than this. Like, I don't know what to say. Like, it's just, one thing I've been thinking about is like, you have these girls on YouTube. And this is something I've been talking about for a while because it's been in my face. But you have these girls on YouTube who are like really pretty, good looking. And the first reaction that you have, a lot of guys are mad at these girls. Like, they show up at the comments and they're like, people only watch you because you're cute. And first of all, you think they don't know that already? They know, but it's just the tragedy of. First of all, they're not happy. So when you look at these egos, the ones I look at are always the ones who are not happy. Like, to me, there are two types of person: the shallow one and the unhappy one. I don't believe that any. Like, if you look at people who are sort of happy, like if you go on YouTube and you look at these YouTubers or streamers who are kind of happy, kind of normal, right? Well, to me, they're just shallow. Like, they have nothing to say. They're not interesting. They're stupid. So I don't like them. But then the other category is sad, broken people, and they are the only ones who have any depth. to me. Like I can't imagine somebody being happy and content and have any kind of depth. In fact, I believe this. I don't think they do. I think they kind of they resemble to me more like idiots and imbeciles, you know. But so don't get it twisted. I'm not a friend of the people. I'm an asshole, you know. Fuck the people, you know. Like often when I look at people, they just appear to me like ogres. I swear I've seen ogres before. Like you look at them and oh fuck, this guy is an ogre. But anyway, so these girls are not happy, but then they know that the only reason people watch them is because they're cute, and that's real tragic for them too. Like these guys who are mad in the comments don't understand that it's not just a tragedy for them. That they're like, this is tragedy for. It's not just a tragedy for the guys who don't get this sort of attention. It's a tragedy for these cute girls also, because they're reduced to their appearance, and that must eat them up inside. That must be a painful feeling. They only like me because I look good. And another tragedy is that it's true. They, like you would never, you would never deal with that bullshit unless they were cute, right? So they have girls, these cute girls have a tendency to just act like kind of cutish, like, like when they type something and they type it in a stupid way. Like if a guy did that, nobody would pay attention, You think if I said, oh, I don't even know what the, when you misspell a word on purpose so that it's spelled the way that it sounds, or when you like put like, when you say hello and you put like 5 O's or something, whatever, that sort of, or like, when I don't even want to give examples, but so the only reason why this is tolerated is because they're cute, and I just think there's something so stupid about how cuteness is a license to act like a retard. Like I don't there's something kind of unattractive to me or stupid to me about how if you're cute you can act like a fucking retard and nobody cares. Like you can make all these faces and all these little cutesy movements and you can talk like you're retarded, and I never understood that. I think it's just it just tells you something about how shallow we are, that we can fall for this sort of stuff. So we actually will put up with a lunatic, right? So some girl who has bipolar, and some of you guys have experience with this, right? But she's completely insane. She's not even tolerable. She acts like a retard, but you put up with it because she looks cute and because you're horny. And this is just like, I'm not targeting them. I'm just saying this is a universal tragedy. Nobody wins. We're all fucking retarded. Why are we doing this? It's just everywhere you look, you just see. Like, I'm not a moralist, but to me it's like you almost want to say, like, have you no dignity? Like, do we not have any dignity at all? Why is it that we tolerate people just because of how they look? But that's the way it works, and there's no changing that. It's not going to change. But yeah, it's just something that needs to be said. So that's why I'm saying it. We all know this to be true. Like when a snarky guy shows up, you're like, they only watch you because you look good, like I said. And it's true, but let's not stop there. I mean, why do you think you're there? Like, you think you're above this? You are here too. You're not here for some different reason. So we all lose because we're all kind of shallow and stupid. We put up with things that we shouldn't put up with because we're afraid, or we put up with it because we're just horny. We put up with it because it looks good. You know, like even dogs. Like dogs are really annoying. They're really loud, and if they were not cute, nobody would put up with them. And it's just to me, this is just a tragedy. Like we really just lack dignity. You know, it's not exactly a surprise that we have assholes, and we shit out of our assholes, given that, well, that's what we are. We're kind of just stupid assholes. We're dignified animals, or like we're not dignified animals, but like we're animals that are put on the pedestal by us, by ourselves, right? But we're still just stupid apes. And so one reason to reject optimism is that, well, a stupid ape will always be a stupid ape. Give a retard a calculator. You give a guy a hammer, the first thing he does is whack somebody over the head. Sometimes he builds something, but he also whacks. It's like, and then the building falls. So I'm just saying, like, we're just I'm not remembering the word, but it's like we're not dignified animals, but like we're pretending to be better than that. Glorified animals. We are the glorified animals. And I find it annoying that people don't really want to talk about this or think about this too much, especially when it gets a little too honest. When you attack the sacred cows that you're not allowed to. Like I don't know, I just find people intolerable these days. Like when people like make memes, you see memes everywhere. Everybody's funny. You ever notice that when you go on YouTube or Reddit or any of this thing, all the comments have to be funny? Like, when did this happen? I don't think it used to be that way, right? It didn't used to be that everybody has to be funny. But now the only way we can communicate is with irony. Everybody has to be funny, which I just find really strange that, we're so kind of shallow. We know we're so fucked and so doomed that everything has to be a joke, right? Whereas if social media existed 50 years ago, 100 years ago, you think the comments would be that fucking stupid? So I'm a little bit skeptical. I feel like I have a suspicion that people used to be smarter, right? And you will say, no, look at the IQ points. People are, you look at so many people go to college now. So many people are literate. But the college courses are probably easier now. Like, I have a sense that there's a quiet kind of, they're making everything easier a little bit, right? And because you have Google and you have AI, you can just Google the answer. So you don't really have to read a book. You can read a little tiny thing, and that will give you the answer. So I don't know how to prove this, but I have a suspicion that, well, I guess one way to prove it is that when people used to talk to each other and write letters, like pull up a letter from the 1600s, seriously, like pull up a letter, or even just look at TV from like 1960 or 1970. People used to talk in a much more dignified way. They used to talk in a much more erudite and on a higher register. Whereas now the presidents can barely string together a sentence. And this might just be a kind of U.S. focused, like of course most of us, I'm not American, but most of us are like tethered to the U.S. So this might be biased, but like maybe people in France are just as smart as they used to be, or I don't know. But it's like, from what I see, there's been a great dumbing down, which is really, like, you would say, okay, who cares? Like, okay, so we're not as sophisticated as we used to be. Who cares? Like, in a way, I understand it. I don't even care that much either. But it is nonetheless sad. There's a kind of like, ew, That's what I am. I'm part of this generation that can't read, that can't talk, that can't write. Like, you know, I was watching Kai Cenat, for example, like, you know, these famous streamers, and like Kai Cenat said, "I have you a gift." You can look at this on YouTube. It says, "I have you a gift." So he bought this guy a gift, who's like, I don't remember his name, black comedian guy. So he bought him a gift, and he says, "I have you a gift." This guy is a millionaire. This guy is like 22 years old. This guy's first language is English. English is my second language. Do you think Kai Cenat can talk like this? I mean, he might be more fluent, because I sometimes have to think about what I say. So in a way, the native speaker always wins, because they don't really have to think. They always just, everything rolls off the tongue, and you know, I always been jealous of that, because I always had a passion for English. I just like English. And so that's why it pisses me off, I guess, because this guy has been given it for free, and he's that fucking stupid. He says, "I have you a gift." I mean, there are garbage men who are more literate. And I mean, probably most of them are more literate than this. And they don't make millions of dollars. They don't say, "I have you a gift." When you know, another guy has a, you know, is having his birthday, and you know, he doesn't go up to him and say, "I have you a gift." There's no way that happens. The garbage men are more literate, or whatever, you know, street cleaners. I don't know, anybody. You know. Yeah, like this reminds me of like these intellectuals, right? So I saw on YouTube this kind of intellectual roundtable where a couple of intellectuals were talking, you know. So we're talking about like Judith Butler and whatever, some other people, and then you know, they gave this typical, like, one of them, I think it was Judith Butler, who gave this typical, like, "I noticed there's no, you know, woman of color in you know, because there was a black guy, there was a white guy who was gay, and then there was a lesbian, but there was no black. There was no black woman, right?" And so she points this out, and maybe there's a point to it. Like, why is there, you know, why is it always, you know, white people or men, right? But then this other guy retorts, "Yes, but you know what? I'm also noticing something, which is that there's nobody who's working class on this round table, right? We're all intellectuals. We all have college degrees. We all have a lot of money. So why is there no garbage men talking?" And that completely, I don't even remember what she said to that, but she completely destroyed her entire story. Like, it was one of the most brilliant things I've probably ever seen. Like, you know, there's no black woman. Okay, so where's the but the black woman, she would probably have a PhD. Who cares? Fuck her. She's not part of the oppressed in any meaningful sense if she has a PhD. You know, I mean, there's almost, I mean, she really doesn't suffer all that much. Let's be honest. Unless, you know, some racist, you know, but yeah, that probably exists, but like, it's like minute. Like, a white guy with autism suffers more, you know. But nobody cares about that very much, you know. Yeah, I guess that's another thing, is that let's say that you're white and you're a guy and you're straight, but you have autism, and you know, this has been a common theme in my videos, that nobody really cares about neurodivergent people if they're too divergent, right? So people have this virtue signaling crap of like, we care about the broken, we care about the, you know, fuck, We care about the downtrodden. We care about the poor. We care about the mentally ill. We care about the neurodivergent. But notice that when somebody gets a little too jokery, a little too saucy, they're done. Like they don't care about them anymore. Like it's just so it's so when somebody does something bad, of course it makes sense to denounce them for it, but like there's a contradiction in that the guy who did something bad is part of the poor, the broken, the downtrodden. You don't steal, you don't do bad things unless you're fucked in the head. But then they immediately turn around and start cheating on them. So I always find it kind of contradictory to have this kind of attitude. It's an attitude problem. To have this positive, affirming attitude towards neurodivergent people, but then at the same time hate everything they are and everything they do. To bully them, to outcast them, to send them to jail. So I have in mind bad things. I don't want to even mention them because, whatever, that would probably just destroy the video. But you know what I mean. People do bad things. They do questionable things. They might be weird or rude or something or other, and yet they are the people that you're supposed to be vouching for. But you don't really do that. So I don't know, like if you're autistic, then you spend your entire life being outcast by society. And yet these people are telling you that you're worth something, that it's okay to be the way you are. And yet they're not gonna deal with you 9 times out of 10. Right? Yeah. So one of the supreme forms of irony is like, I once knew a person, and I was joking about how I'm autistic. Like, I would say like I'm autistic, and she would get really angry at me. She would be like, "Don't use autism as like a joke." And the funniest bit is that, okay, she didn't know it, but I'm actually autistic. I didn't know that either. But it's just this funny thing of like, they care more about the appearance than the actual thing. They just wanna, by all available evidence, these people just wanna look good, right? They don't actually want to do anything to help anything. They just want to look good. And so I question this idea that we're progressing somewhere in terms of civilization, because for one, everybody's retarded. For two, we're really just shallow, the way I explained, right? We're just really shallow people. And for three, we're just virtue signaling. We're not really doing much to make anything better. You don't see all this. I mean, do you see it? Where is all this brilliant, this hub of like beautiful, progressive things happening? It doesn't exist. It doesn't really exist, right? It's all just virtue signaling. It's all just this. We have to put a black guy in a Netflix movie, which is just bait for the reactionaries, to say, it's woke. And they're right, because it's just stupid. Nobody cares. I mean, do you really think that these Hollywood executives have any moral backbone? So it's just the wrong thing to attack. You're never gonna get the revolution of decency and righteousness from Hollywood executives. They don't care. They were just, like I said, if I said before, like if the Nazis were popular now, which they're getting popular. So if the Nazis were popular, all the LGBT stuff would be removed. And in fact, I heard that Google actually removed all these like LGBT month or like, Black History Month. They all removed it from like their little logo thing. So because Elon Musk came, and then Mark Zuckerberg had this thing where so Elon Musk came to power when Donald Trump came to power, and it became obvious that now this kind of liberal society that we had in the mid 2010s You had BuzzFeed and mansplaining and all this, but everything was very liberal, and you really had to watch what you say. That is over now. We live in a post-truth society with alternative facts where everybody just makes up whatever they want, and you can say whatever you want. You can throw up the nut. You can seek higher. You can do anything you like, and you'll get away with it because you still have a bunch of supporters. Because people are dumb and stupid, and partially I explain why. Like what I've been talking about explains this, of why like Donald Trump is in power and why people like Elon Musk, because they're stupid, because they're ignorant and shallow and illiterate. I mean, Donald Trump and Elon Musk are really stupid people. They're not really smart. They're not really literate. They don't sound like intellectuals. They just look good to certain people because they have power, and they fight against the woke mob and whatever. So you don't have to be cute. You just have to have persuasion, right? So I'm not saying being cute is the only way. Of course not. What really matters is what is your personality. It's what kind of a story you can whip up for the people. What kind of a spin doctor you can be. And so anyway, so this liberal era is over. Clearly, it's over. And so Mark Zuckerberg came out with his new libertarian get up, and he's the woke people, just as conveniently, just as Musk takes power. And I mean, this is inching towards fascism, because fascism means that capitalists still rule. So the difference between kind of socialism, of a kind of totalitarian socialism, let's say, and fascism is that in fascism you still have capitalists. And so so we have a capitalist, the richest man in the world, who throws up the Sikh Heil that Nazis like, that is now some kind of henchman of the president. So I mean, if this wasn't fascism already, now it is. It's not like fascism where you get murdered for but it's soft, That's what it is. I mean, it's a soft fascism now. And so yeah, so I guess the point was, so you have Mark Zuckerberg, his heel turn, and so what I was saying is, you can't wait for the revolution from Netflix, because they just gonna, like, if things go downhill even more in terms of social progress, then 10 years from now you can expect Netflix to put out like quasi-fascist TV and movies. And so don't expect the revolution from there. The revolution should come from within. It should come from the bottom up, grassroots. So I don't buy this argument that the revolution will come from the bottom. No, I think it comes from the individual. It's the opposite of what people like. Leftist people usually say, revolution doesn't come from the individual. That's the neoliberal individualist line, profited by, Peterson, right? So you can't just fix the world by cleaning your room. But in my opinion, he's right, in a sense, because that's where it comes from. The reason why the world sucks is because people suck. And it doesn't do to keep pretending there's this magic state, this magic society somewhere which doesn't exist. It's just a series of people. So the revolution really does come from you, and it's up to you to do it. If you don't want to be nice, if you don't want to be kind, if you don't want to be accepting of people's differences, then it's not gonna come. And that's why it hasn't come. Because because you never really wanted that in the first place. You don't really care. 9 out of 10 people don't care. You might be one of those people who do. There are those people who do. But 9 times out of 10 people show no proof that they're worth anything at all. sad, but true. Like having empathy is not enough. Being nice is not enough. You have to have conviction. You have to have real ethics. You have to do something, you know. And people just, virtue signaling on Twitter just ain't enough. Like, I don't know what else to say. And 9 out of 10 people are just that. They're just shallow virtue signaling idiots with no real depth of understanding of anything. People love to victim blame. Right? Like, I always thought that the perpetrators were also the victims, right? Which is not to excuse the perpetrators, but to me it never made any sense to say, the perpetrator is just some perpetrator. The perpetrator comes out of a whole lineage of victimhood, right? The perpetrator is just a sign of society's weakness, a sign that society hasn't been able to deliver. Every negative thing is the fault of society, which to me is not just some abstraction, but it's just the individual human beings who are dominated by this spook. And so, because of that, because it's a spook, they do have the power to change it. And that's the positive message to me, that the idea that society doesn't really exist, that it's just a phantom, is actually an opening for something new. It's saying that if you struggle hard enough, you can probably change something. Change comes from within. Be the change you want to see in the world, that sort of stuff. I accept this. I don't accept the argument that, when they try to shut you down by saying, no, it's a societal thing. But you are the society. But that's why it's also really difficult, because you don't actually get any pats on the back for being honest. And the more honest you are, the fewer the pats you're gonna get. What people do is they shoot the messenger. People love to shoot the messenger. Somebody says something honest, they somehow imagine it's their fault, right? So if I say that, well, I always find a lot of women annoying, and many of them are just kind of stupid and annoying. So are men, but somehow you have to put them on a pedestal because they are the chosen ones today. People always select somebody as women. Like, why should I? Like, do you really think that women as a group are really all that special? Because I don't. I think they're just a bunch of assholes just like anybody else, regardless of their gender. But today we live in which is not going away, but we live in a society where you have certain groups you have to put on the pedestal. You have to be really accepting of immigrants and women, and But I never really understood that, because to me, a woman is just another asshole. Like, I don't really care. I don't really, the woman, it's just so brilliant. Oh wait, it's not. They just paint their fucking nails. I don't. Why am I supposed to be so fucking enchanted by women? I mean, I don't want them. I want them to have all the opportunities in the world. But why am I called to respect them? I don't respect people. I think they suck. Men, women, transgender, non-transgender. I don't give a shit. What I am is a misanthrope. And you're not gonna get. So see. You're not going to get any pats on the back for that. You have to lie and say, aren't women just so brilliant? But that always changes. 100 years ago, you were supposed to say, isn't the Führer so fucking brilliant? Isn't Stalin so brilliant? Isn't the Jesus Christ so brilliant? Isn't the sun god so brilliant? They always select somebody that you're supposed to jerk off. Always some celebrity, always some group. And you're not allowed to shit on them. Everybody likes what is the name of the boxer? Mike Tyson. But he's a fucking rapist, isn't he? He went to jail for being a rapist, and people say, and you're not allowed to hate him. Everybody is always like, he's so tough. he's so cool. And to me, he just looks like a fucking psychotic jackoff. You know, I don't respect what you people tell me I'm supposed to respect. You know, and of course, it shouldn't be bigoted. For example, it shouldn't be bigoted against immigrants. You should say, okay, the individual human beings, but they still have this archaic culture that they're bringing in. You know, so if they're willing to get rid of it as individuals. Oh, Jesus Christ! Is this my sign to shut up? Probably, but I'm not gonna. So if they're willing to get rid of those, you know, we don't like gays. You know, if you talk about our God in a bad way, we're gonna kill you. If they don't have all that bullshit, no problem. But the fact is, as a general culture, they have this problem in Islam mostly, right? And so if you say that, bigot, racist, you're hardly even allowed to say it. And it's like, I'm just being honest. Why is it my fault? You don't like it when the Christians do it. Why is it okay when they do it? Stop treating them like they're fucking idiots. You know. Again, these are just a sample of honesty, right? But even this is like, oh, you can feel like the attacks coming. You know. And all you want to do is be honest and say like, well, I'm not gonna respect you just because you have a fucking vagina. I don't give a shit. Fuck you. And I really don't want all this, you know, Muslim extremism. Like, I don't want it. I don't think it's a good idea. Oh, bigot. I mean, okay, you know, maybe you'll say that's an exaggeration, but you know what I mean. You know, the left loves to defend the people they think are deserving of protection. But I think they just kind of dehumanize them and they take away their agency. They speak in their name. They're white saviors. And we don't need white saviors. Shut up. Okay? We should, you know, just criticize them for what they deserve to get criticized for. Say honest things. So my idea of revolution is to just be honest. My idea of revolution is not some great violent fucking thing, but just being honest. Right? A sampler of honesty, right? A tray of honesty. You know, whatever it's called when they bring you food and then they have like appetizers. Yeah, just, you know, feed the people some truth, some honesty. Challenge them. That is my idea of revolution. And it's been a great failure. I admit it. But yeah. You can keep fighting and maybe it will pick up and people will be more honest and more decent. Because to me, honesty, like philosophers sometimes ask, what is the greatest virtue? Happiness, freedom, I don't know. Rationality, but to me it's honesty. Honesty is the number one virtue because without honesty, there's no way you're doing anything ethical. You can't be an ethical liar. I don't believe that you can be. You always have to feel a certain guilt if you're being dishonest. And so that's why it seems to me to be the highest virtue. Of course, it's not enough. You have to be like decent and good, apart from being honest. But those are not the best. Like saying the highest good is being good is just a tautology. So you have to choose something, and to me, it's honesty. But remember that you're never gonna get patted on the back for that. If you really say honest things, 9 times out of 10 or 7 times out of 10, I don't know, it will be something that the people will hate. And so don't think it's gonna be pleasurable to be honest. But I still would say yes, you should be honest. I don't think that's a radical statement really. But it kind of is because people are not honest. So yeah, I mean that's it. Reached the 1 hour mark. That's what I like. And yeah, well, it is what it is. Survive another day.